Historical BAMFs, because your textbook left out the good parts. In 480 BC, a Persian king showed up to invade Greece with an army so massive that ancient writers just gave up trying to count it accurately and started guessing in the millions. Standing in his way was one Spartan king, a narrow mountain pass, and a force so small it sounds like a typo. This is the story of the traffic jam that stalled an empire. Meet Leonidas I, king of Sparta, a place where the entire school system was basically a decade-plus-long hazing ritual designed to produce people who did not flinch, ever, at anything. Here's the part most people skip. Leonidas wasn't even supposed to be king. He had two older brothers ahead of him in line for the throne, which meant that, unlike a lot of royal heirs, nobody excused him from that brutal training system growing up. He went through the exact same grinder as every other Spartan kid, because as far as anyone knew, he was never going to need a throne, just the ability to not die easily. Both older brothers ended up dead or gone. The crown landed on him anyway, and by the time he marched to Thermopylae, he was reportedly somewhere around 60 years old. 60! Most people that age are trying to not throw out their backs getting off the couch. Leonidas was volunteering to fight the largest invasion force the Greeks had ever seen. When the word came that the Persian king Xerxes was marching an absolutely enormous unit of an army toward Greece, most of the Greek city-states did the sensible thing: panic, negotiate, or start packing. Sparta sent Leonidas to a narrow coastal pass called Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, with a small advance force. Not the fabled 300 alone, by the way. That number gets all the movie posters. But Leonidas actually brought a few thousand allied Greek troops with him. The 300 Spartans were the core of the group that stuck around for the part where everybody dies. The plan was simple. Thermopylae was so narrow that Xerxes' massive numbers advantage basically didn't matter. It's hard to overwhelm someone with an army the size of a small country when only about a dozen guys can physically stand shoulder to shoulder at once. Numbers are only scary until geography tells them to wait their turn. For 2 days, the Greeks held the pass and handed the Persian army an extremely expensive lesson in bottleneck management. Elite Persian troops, the famous immortals, got thrown at the line and thrown right back. Then, a local Greek man named Ephialtes did what every group project has feared since the dawn of time. He sold everyone out for a reward and showed the Persians a mountain path that led straight around the pass. Once Leonidas realized his position was about to be surrounded, he made a call that stayed famous for 2,500 years. He sent most of the army home to fight another day and kept a small force behind, the 300 Spartans, several hundred Thespians who volunteered to stay and die alongside them. And Leonidas didn't just grab any 300 Spartans. According to Herodotus, he specifically picked men who already had living sons, meaning every single one of the 300 he chose already had an heir carrying on the family name before he selected them for a mission he almost certainly knew was one way. That's not just bravery. That's bravery with a spreadsheet. According to the later Greek writer Plutarch, when the Persians demanded the Greeks lay down their weapons, Leonidas' response was just 2 words in the original Greek: molon lave, meaning come and take them. Herodotus, writing closer to the actual event, doesn't record this line at all, which means it's either the single greatest one-liner in ancient warfare, or something a later writer added a few centuries afterwards because the real story needed a better tagline. Either way, it's been on gym t-shirts ever since. The Spartans and their allies fought until their spears broke, then fought with swords, then reportedly fought with their bare hands and teeth when even that ran out. Leonidas fell partway through the final stand, and according to Herodotus, his men then spent the rest of the battle fighting off repeated Persian charges just to keep his body from being taken, driving the Persians back 4 separate times before they were finally overwhelmed themselves. Xerxes, once he had the field, was evidently not a gracious winner. He had Leonidas' body beheaded and the head put on display. The Persians won the battle, Let's be clear about that. They took the pass and the road to Athens was open. But holding that pass for as long as they did bought the rest of Greece something priceless. Time. Time to prepare the fleet, time to organize, time to eventually beat the Persians at the battles of Salamis and Plataea that actually decided the war. 300 guys and their allies didn't win the battle. They just made sure everyone else still had a country left to win the war in. A monument was later raised at Thermopylae with an epitaph credited to the poet Simonides, and it stayed one of the most quoted lines in military history ever since. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. 60 years old, not even supposed to be king, picked his own death squad from men who'd already secured their bloodlines, and his own soldiers wouldn't even let the enemy have his body without a fight. That's a BAMF. Well, a whole lot of BAMFs if you ask me. Subscribe for more historical BAMFs. New legends every episode.